If you thought the leviathans of the deep were a force to be reckoned with, prepare yourself for a different type of beast. This species of monster excels in speed and raw power and can place some of their members as apex predators amongst themselves. What better monster to start out with to represent these fanged beasts is there than Lunagaron himself? Folks, welcome back to my second edition of an evidence-based approach to ranking specific monsters in Monster Hunter Sunbreak as a GS user. This time I will be hunting all the Fanged Wyverns and assessing their difficulty based on the potions used, other healing received, time to kill and carts taken. At the end I will tally up each category, assign points, rank them, and see where they fall with respect to each other. I'm not going to go too far into the design critique and methodology like my last video, but if you'd like to see the details and the experimental model to a greater extent, you can click on the card here. Without further ado, let's get back to the newest member of the Fanged Wyvern species, Lunagaron. This werewolf is surprisingly enjoyable for me to hunt, even though he bears a prestigious title as one of the three dreaded lords. He's quick but has appropriate sized hitboxes relative to his body, making it easy for me to at least predict his movements. His freeze blight affects your wire bug recharge time, but that isn't very noticeable due to the specific playstyle that I adapt as a GS user. I mainly use wire bugs to power sheath and re-engage after being knocked back, but I'm not too dependent on their use. He also has GS-friendly and reachable break spots. These include his legs, his tail, and his head twice. Occasionally he'll put on some ice armor, but everyone knows that fighting is super effective against ice, so that's pretty silly. The tail is tricky though, because the tip is armored, which throws me off quite a bit. Over my hunts against Warwick, I used 1 potion, 10 Palico heals, and cleared him with an average time of 8 minutes and 25 seconds, no cart. Every one of these videos I make, there always happens to be one monster within the species that just doesn't fit in like the others. Tobi-Kadachi, as you'll soon see, is one of the least intimidating Fanged Wyvern. You can't blame the poor little squirrel. He's just not really optimized for combat with those webbed wings of his. He's sort of like a Make-A-Wish version of Zinogre, with his ability to charge up a bit, but not too much. But overall, there's been no reported casualties from a Tobi-Kadachi. Most of his body is just a massive break spot, with an interesting fact: you can't cut off his tail. Or can you? It's a bit of a shame that his Viper form was not added to this game. That would have added some flavor and would have been the only Fanged Wyvern that could poison you, but he's not here. Tobi ended up causing me the use of 1 potion, 5 Palico/follower heals, and an average clear time of 4 minutes and 29 seconds. It turns out I'm not the only one that hunts Tobi-Kadachi. Magnamola is super iconic to base game Rise. He was originally included in the demo and held the position as the boss battle. And for the base game Rise and through Sunbreak and various transient HR, MR, AR gates, he has held that position. He's a formidable monster even at his base form and has some real pent-up progression going on. As a GS user, he isn't too much of a pain to fight, mainly due to his plethora of breakable targets. I normally aim for his glowing blades on his arms or his face. Most of the time, faces are great targets for greatsword users, except for Devil Joe, whose face is in the stratosphere. Occasionally I'll go for his tail when I see an opening, but he does tend to move it around a lot sporadically, and it's not always the easiest to land hits on. I almost made the mistake of underestimating his base form and actually got very close to carding, which would have really been bad and skewed the results, because he's not that hard, at least where I am in the endgame. Fortunately, I did not card, and I took him out over a course of 2 hunts with the use of 3 potions, 8 alternative healings, and an average run of 7 minutes and 1 second. Now, this electric-type Pokemon has given me problems since 4U. I'll admit he has an incredible design, and I do appreciate the unique dynamic battle style through his charging up feature. He's an absolute nightmare for me to fight as a GS user though. His hitboxes are fair enough, all things considered, and his weak spots are similar to Lunagaron's, even down to the detail about being able to break his horns twice. However, Jolteon's speed is what gives me the most trouble. Also, when he's supercharged, he can do some relentless spamming damage. Needless to say, I am blessed they did not include Stygian Zinogre in Sunbreak. Overall, I cleared the 2 Zinogre hunts with 10 potions, 14 off heals, and an average kill time of 7 minutes and 59 seconds. I saved the best for last. Scorn Magnamola. He must be ranked higher than Zinogre, right? It appears that in the natural environment he does not have any trouble asserting his dominance over Zinogre. I actually found it pretty ironic that both Base Magnamola and Scorned feature their video taking advantage of weaker Fanged Wyverns, and both those Fanged Wyverns actually resemble each other. I'm sure the Capcom did this on purpose for an Easter egg, but it's a nice little nod. Scorned Magnamola is the only Fanged Wyvern variant in this game, and boy can you feel the difference compared to his base form. Unsurprisingly, he is a powerhouse. In fact, he was even strong enough to cart me once. Mechanistically speaking, he's very similar to his base form, and his target break parts are the same. From a GS perspective, he's not that bad, other than his ridiculous damage, but that's independent of the weapon class you use to fight him. I feel that Wyvern classes as a whole are pretty enjoyable as a greatsword user. I've mentioned that a couple times in this video already, how they're not that much of a trouble for me. I attribute this mainly because they're low to the ground, they don't fly around or slither underwater like the leviathans, they don't have sleep or burn or mud. They're just raw damage that you can anticipate, dodge, counter, and brute force through, which is where greatswords excel. Much of their damage is done with their claws or their tails, and they can be predicted and countered in ample time. But most importantly, their weak spots are easy to pin down and hit with our unwieldy, large weapons. Despite losing 1 life, I managed to kill Scorned Magnamola over a course of 2 hunts with 8 potions, 10 off heals, and an average clear time of 10 minutes and 7 seconds. Now for the moment that everyone's been waiting for. The moment that some viewers skipped to in the last video. Starting on the leftmost column are the names of each of the monsters, with the final value averaged over 2 hunts written in blue. The ranking of each category is displayed in the table, with the most points being awarded to the largest amount of healing or time required to kill each monster. Each carding awarded 5/9 of a point, and in this case actually led to a difference in the end rating between Zinogre and Scorned Magnamola. The only change from the previous Leviathan study was the decision to shift from 3 hunts to 2 hunts per monster. And that decision was made after reviewing the previous data and noticing low within-group variability in each category. This also held true in this study. The final results placed Toby unsurprisingly in the lowest category with a score of 3, followed by none other than his natural predator, Magnamola, with a score of 7. Lunagarin takes the 3rd place with a score of 9, followed by Zinogre at 13, and ending with Scorned Magnamola, barely squeezing ahead due to that 1 cart that I experienced. Now re-ranking the whole tier list with the Fanged Wyverns and the Leviathans together is shown here. I experimented with a couple different breakpoints for each category, but ultimately 10-point increments led to a really clean, unintended 3-3-3-3-3 distribution. As more monsters are reviewed, more points will be spread out uniquely, and more ranks will be added to the tier list. But for now, I'm quite pleased with the results. I do plan on continually updating this list as the study criteria is applied to all monsters in Sunbreak, and I hope that everyone enjoyed this edition of my GS tier list for the Fanged Wyverns. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy this video and want to see more content or support me. Thank y'all, and I'll see you next time.